right, here we go, here we go, here we go. We get to be on the play. Our hand is awful. Yeah, we're gonna have to mulligan this. This deck's fine, but we really need a creature. That doesn't really count. I kind of want to keep it just because. So if we keep this on top, we're gonna draw it next turn. So there's no way it's unlikely that we'll be able to accrue our Copter on turn 3, so I'm going to bottom it. It is a little annoying though. My hand is a little on the mana light side, and that was a creature land, which is exactly the sort of land I would want to draw. And but if I keep it on top, then I mean it's not even like I get to play it on turn 1. I'm going to draw it on turn 2. I'm going to play my other Blooming Marsh on turn 2 and play Smuggler's Copter. And then I have one draw step to hit exactly a 1 or 2 mana creature if I want to accrue my Copter. So, I have, like, with that line I would have a turn 3 Grasp in Darkness as a consolation, but drawing the Serpent of the Conduit's perfect. Actually, it's a creature for the Copter, but it's also mana. So certainly happy that I didn't keep the thing. Although, if I had kept the thing, I would have just drawn this Serpent of Conduit on this turn, and it would have worked out fine. Still happy with my decision. So I'd assume that we're against the Temur Aetherworks deck. Yeah. So we really want to rush, especially considering we don't have things like Transgress the Mind to get Aetherworks out of our opponent's hand. Probably don't need 2 Kalitases. Probably don't need 2 removal spells either. Yeah, I think we can probably just. Well, I'll get rid of the Kalitas. My reasoning with this is, without land drops, having 2 4-mana legendary creatures is probably worse than Grasp in Darkness and Deadweight. My opponent could have things like Serpent of the Conduit that I might want to kill, or, yeah, just random things like this. The one thing that's annoying about this is I think it's pretty unlikely that my opponent actually has any intention of using this for really anything. I could play Kalitas here and then start doing stuff. Yeah, I'm going to play Kalitas here. So if my opponent wants to use a bunch of energy to kill my Kalitas, I'm kind of okay with that. So let's see here. I don't really want to give up any of these cards, actually, but I think I'm going to give up the Grasp in Darkness with the intention of casting Deadweight on this Renegade next turn and playing the Grim Flayer, because I really want pressure. So do we have an Aetherworks? The other thing that's nice about discarding the Grasp in Darkness is now I don't have to worry about my opponent grasping my Kalitas. So there's a good chance my opponent just puts Emrakul into play and blocks my Kalitas. Wow. That's good for me. So the part of this that isn't good for me is that there's two of these and my opponent is going to be able to activate Aetherworks next turn. So I could play Verdurous Gearhulk here. And I would love to bait him into trying to use the energy on one of these things. I think I'm just going to use my removal spells go wide and Gearhulk on the following turn. Nice. My opponent's just completely F6'd out of this. Oh, wow. I actually didn't even notice this, but because I have the Kalitas in play, when these guys die, they're not generating an energy with the Aetherworks Marvel, which is actually really sweet. So this is actually looking pretty good for me, even if my opponent has an Emrakul. And I just have Delirium from discarding that land too, which is really nice. My opponent doesn't have Delirium, so something like Ishkana is not something I have to worry about. Although I certainly am going to be a little worried if my opponent can play Emrakul and deploy some more power and toughness onto the board this turn. But if my opponent doesn't find something good here, I'm going to be in pretty good shape. My opponent certainly needs more than Emrakul. Ulamog is pretty good. Oh man, imagine I had Blossoming Defense here. Oh, that would be so nice. This is probably better than Emrakul. I would love it if my opponent killed my Smuggler's Copter. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. This thing doesn't have flying. If my opponent doesn't have anything to block flying creatures, probably going to be a situation where I'm going to play a Copter and put all the counters from Verdurous Gearhulk on it. If I knock my opponent down to 2, it should be a lot easier to finish him off. My opponent has something like Harness Lightning, that could be kind of bad for me. If my opponent passes with all of his mana open, essentially representing some sort of removal spell, and I draw an untapped land, I could play Verdurous Gearhulk and put a +1/+1 counter on each one of these, and crew the Copter, and attack with everything. And that would be pretty good. Ooh, Madcap Experiment. Not quite what I wanted. Hmm. So I do want to play this card. And I think that for some reason I was under the impression that I could crew my Copter, but I guess I have to choose targets for the trigger. So if I make both my zombies into 4/4s, I am worried about Harness Lightning here. Make both my zombies into 4/4s and crew the Copter. I'd be able to attack with everything. And he'd probably Harness Lightning at the Copter, take 4, block the other 4, go to 5, and then I have a 4/4 and a 2/2. So I think maybe I'll just do this and just see how my opponent responds. Do the Copter, see how my opponent responds. Does he want to Harness Lightning now? If he Harness Lightnings now, then I just don't attack with anything. But I mean, maybe there's a chance my opponent doesn't have Harness Lightning. At least I get the loot, which is good. I have a land in my hand. Ugh. And here comes the Harness Lightning. Oh, Aether Meltdown. Okay. Little surprised that my opponent did it the way he did. By doing it on my zombie, he does save himself a point of damage this turn, but I feel like the Smuggler's Copter is the bigger threat considering my opponent doesn't have like an Ishkan or something. Maybe he has one in his hand. Pretty crazy that my opponent only has sorcery and creature in his art graveyard. Oh, that's 6. Can my opponent get an Emrakul? And it would have been nice if I hadn't mulliganed this game. I feel like this is pretty bad matchup. Well, I shouldn't say bad, but it's like pretty close and tough. These Aetherworks Marvel decks are the real deal. They're so good. Aetherworks Marvel is just not that much different than Show and Tell. Perfect. Something that doesn't have reach. So actually, if I can draw another Verdurous Gearhulk, I'll just win. Another Copter is not too shabby. I feel like all the Eldrazi should have reach, because they're all just so big. And under no circumstances do I want to let this Renegade die. I have to imagine with the 4 cards in my hand, my opponent's going to have no problem getting another 2 energy for Aetherworks Marvel. Wow, how many tormenting voices is that? Oh, and there's also Cathartic Reunion. Now he's got 4 types. So now Ishkana is definitely something that I need to worry about. Wow, my opponent's still digging. It's actually worked out kind of bad for him. He's drawn all these red spells and he's only drawn one mountain. So he's actually had to use some of his energy on... Wow, and my opponent concedes. Doesn't have a way to get energy, doesn't have a way to deal with the Copter. Crazy. Yeah, I really feel like that Aetherworks meltdown was on the wrong target. Alright, so we can definitely get rid of the Kalitases. Bring in those Fleetwheel Cruisers. And love Transgress the Mind. Oh yeah. And now what do we want to get rid of? Get rid of Liliana. A little too slow for this matchup. I don't think that I want the Gnarlwood Dryads. The Deadweights. Although there will be plenty of situations where the Deadweights have some utility. I think two Blossoming Defenses is fine. I don't think Gnarlwood Dryad's very good, but I think I just want like a creature on the ground. Things like Copter and Cruiser and... I mean, randomly my opponent will have an Emrakul and I'll just be like, LOL, I can attack with my Death Touch creatures. So I don't think I want Skysovereign. I think these are all the things that I want. So I wouldn't mind having the Deadweights, but since I only have room for so few removal spells, Grasp is just more versatile, and I want to make sure that I'm okay against the red-blue 2/3 that makes Thopters, so I'm keeping that. This guy's name is Drifted Crayfish. Quite the name. This hand is awesome. Keep all day, every day. Give me more of it. Sick Mountain. I got a Death Touch Wild Nicottle. Like kind of on suspend. Wow, this is actually working out perfectly too. We're going to be able to put a land and a sorcery into our graveyard. Is nice. So I assume this means my opponent already has an Aetherworks Marvel in his hand. So I can play Catacomb Sifter on my upcoming turn, and then Verdurous Gearhulk on the following. Man, when this thing enters the battlefield, he gets 3 energy? I just attack with it anyway. I assume my opponent blocks. This is like so good for him. But and so now, do I want to play the Gnarlwood Dryad also? I play if I play the Swamp the Gnarlwood Dryad this turn, it means an untapped mana land would make my next draw step a little bit more powerful, but not by much. I think I'm just going to play come into play tapped land. Assume this is Aetherworks Marvel. I guess since my opponent only has 4 energy, he may hold off on it. Oh, Grim Flayer is actually really nice. I could certainly consider not playing the Grim Flayer this turn. Excuse me, the Verdurous Gearhulk. So I could play Grim Flayer, Traverse the Ulvenwald for a forest, Gnarlwood Dryad, and attack with everybody. Really blown out by something like Kozilek's Return. I think it's just like more powerful to play the Verdurous Gearhulk here. I'm a little suspicious of an Aetherworks Meltdown. But it's kind of like whatever. And I think I'm going to do the full spread. That way, whatever he, like, I just feel 100% my opponent has Aetherworks Meltdown, so, I mean, there's a chance he has Harness Lightning instead, but basically, whatever I make 4 toughness, my opponent is going to Meltdown, so I might as well just put the 4th counter on the Servant of the Conduit. And that gives my opponent the 5th and 6th energy. So here's the Aetherworks Marvel, as anticipated. If you ever see your opponent discard Aetherworks Marvel with Cathartic Reunion on turn 2, just rest assured that he's got another one in his hand. There is Emradad. So my opponent can't do too much damage. He's going to be able to sacrifice my Eldrazi Scion and run another one of the creatures into Emrakul. So that's not too bad. And he's going to be able to scry something bad onto the top of my library. But it's not that much damage to me, but it's going to be hard to race a 13-13 or get through it. Opponent's probably just looking, is there something like Ob Nixilis that can kill Emrakul? No. Okay, don't care about any of the cards in your deck. So one thing interesting about this is I don't think I get to see the scry. Kind of annoying. I guess I do get to see the scry. So I'm going to draw a forest. Perfect. So the silver lining of this is this will enable Delirium. It's mildly nice. I'm drawing a blank. I'm going to pass the turn. My opponent's going to attack me down to 7. I'm going to be able to counterattack for 10. That's it. So even a another Verdurous Gearhulk. But my team would not be enough. Fleetwheel Cruiser would be close, knock my opponent to 1. If my opponent has absolutely nothing, I don't have anything to block. Chemical. Wow, another marble. Oh, geez, so close. Kind of a sick top deck. Unfortunately, we get knock him to 2. Go to the sideboard. So, yep, not going to do anything different. We do get to be on the play for this game 3, which is super nice. This hand doesn't have a 2-drop, which is kind of annoying. I think that I want to mulligan this. It's pretty close. The thing is, we have 12 2-mana creatures that we would like to see, plus 3 1-drops. So it seems like, you know, we can mulligan to a 2-drop if we want. I feel like with this hand, we're either going to hit our 3rd land drop on time, or we're going to hit a 1 or 2 mana creature and kind of be fine. So I'm going to keep it, but it's certainly a little risky in terms of our race potential. But Blossoming Defense, Fleetwheel Cruiser are really good cards that can swing the tempo in our favor, even if we miss a beat on turn 2. So. Not having a 2-drop here really hurts my heart, though. Doesn't hurt my head, but it hurts my heart. I want to get my 2-drops, preferably 2-power creature. Get the beatdowns on. Wow, that's a problem. Goes extra turn. So we do have the potential to go pretty wide, or excuse me, pretty big. Notably, even if we don't have a land drop, there's a good chance we play this Fleetwheel Cruiser. I'd much rather play it into a tapped out opponent, though. If my opponent has anything that can, like his mana open, maybe a little bit more hesitant. I feel like my opponent's mana has really been hurting him. He's got these Aether Hubs, but he keeps using them for colored mana. If we hit a land drop, we could even consider, you know, playing the Verdurous Gearhulk. Ooh, Transgress. This is actually perfect. Because we can get a Marvel. Really wish we had a land drop. I really actually want to put more pressure on, but this is like just too good. I could also like even good? I could play Catacomb Sifter, sacrificing Eldrazi Scion, and sacrifice the new Eldrazi Scion, then to play Transgress. So that would put 2 Catacomb Sifters on the board, or my second Catacomb Sifter on the board, and it would give me 2 Scries. I don't really want to do that, though. Tell me what you're working with. Got 3 card types. Gonna go up, obviously. Harnessed. Meltdown. Theorist. Evolving. Cool. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm definitely going to take the Aetherworks Marvel. And I think I want to attack with both. Like, too bad not to attack. I mean, with my opponent's removal, Blossoming Defense does have value, but I think I can just kind of attack with these 2 creatures, play another Sifter, kind of force him to just use his mana on the stuff that's, like, not really what he wants to use it on. This turn he actually doesn't have the mana to use anything. So I'll do it. Nice little scry. Fortunately, going to bottom that glorious card. My opponent's at the point where, scrying with this Theorist is probably a worthwhile thing to do. So if I could hit like a swamp on this upcoming turn, I would definitely like to, Grasp in Darkness this Theorist and then play the Grim Flayer. It's something I would be interested in doing. So much energy. See if my opponent has a drawn a Marvel. Got 1 card that I don't know about. Is it a Marvel? Drum roll, please. Come on, what you got? Show me your cards. Meltdown is fine. All right, not quite what I was hoping for. Gives it -4/-0, so it still attacks as a 1/3. I think actually all I really want to do is kill this guy. Do not want my opponent to be scrying a bunch. Considering he has tons of energy. What do you do with that scry? Card on the bottom, okay. You want to Harness Lightning this? Perfect. Love it. I wish that was a swamp instead of a forest. Make the turn so much better. Cathartic Reunions are actually pretty annoying. Ooh, so my opponent discarded the Emrakul. Kind of surprised. It seems like he's starting to get close. But, oh, that's actually going to be really annoying. Do not like that one bit. Although he can't really kill an 8/8, can he? Actually, he can. He can kill an 8/8 because he's got a Harness Lightning. Wait. I think he has a Harness Lightning. No, he Harness Lightning my Catacomb Sifter. So I believe that my opponent doesn't have a way to kill an 8/8. So I'm going to make an 8/8. All I can. And then I could crew my Copter and attack with it for 1, but pass on that for now. Give a few seconds on my clock. Might as well, right? I could consider playing the Sifter here, because that way if anything dies inside of combat, I'd get the Scry. But I would just much rather have both players on the board. And I mean, he can use a bunch of energy to kill this Grim Flayer. It's kind of like, you know, it is. Whatever, I'm tapped out. Should have left the Hissing Quagmire untapped. Seems like he's got to kill one player here. But I don't know what he's going to do about this big 8/8 Trampler. Not activating that seemed crazy to me. I don't think it was Summoning Sick last turn. Maybe it was. Yeah, I guess he played it last turn. No, because he played the Aetherworks Renegade, and then I played Verdurous Gearhulk. Weird. Alright, let's go to town. What do you got? Oh, you know what would make sense? If my opponent had a an Octopus, an Elder Deep Fiend, because that would flash back the Coast extra turn. Wow, my opponent has nothing though. Dude, if my opponent had Elder Deep Fiend, that would have been so sick, because he would have been able to use this Oh no, it's 6 damage to target player only. Wow, I'm an idiot. So, yep, my opponent was toast. Okay, LOL. Next game.